Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So I am Jenny McCoy with Meredith Corporation. I'm the Director of Corporate Communication, and I just want to welcome everybody here today for our dialogue presentation. I want to recognize the members of our Inclusion Committee who are in the room, and I see a few of you guys in red t-shirts. If you guys want to wave, that would be great. And there's Candace in the back, too. So our committee works with the Iowa International Center to put on these programs, and so we're thrilled with the partnership, and so thank you all for doing that. This is our first time back after summer break, and let's see. Today, we're continuing the dialogue series with past honorees of the Iowa International Center's Passport to Prosperity event. Passport to Prosperity honors immigrants and refugees who have positively impacted their communities and Iowa. Today, the panelists will each share their own unique stories of what brought them to Iowa. They'll talk about how their experiences in the state have shaped their stories, struggles, and successes. We're very happy to have these four panelists here. Welcome to Meredith. And we're so lucky to hear from these impressive individuals. So the panelists are, and maybe if you can just wave when I say your name, because I think you guys aren't in the same order I'm going to read them. But Kenya Calderon. So Kenya is a 2017 Drake University graduate whose family journeyed to the U.S. from El Salvador. And Alex Duong. So there's Alex, an active community volunteer and marketing and communication specialist who immigrated to Iowa from Vietnam at age 12. And Zerkan Usta, did I say that right? Yes. Okay, great. Zerkan is a professional dancer and Ballet Des Moines artistic director who came to the U.S. from Turkey. And then Li Zhao Mandelbaum. There's Li Zhao, a native of China and founder of China Iowa Group. She lived in Holland and the UK before moving to the United States. So thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to an engaging discussion with you. So with that, I'll turn the stage over to Pat Grote, the Executive Director of the Iowa International Center, to moderate the session. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. It's really an exciting opportunity. These four individuals have fascinating stories. Serkan told me it's no big deal. So we'll just see after they have a chance to talk. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to give them each a chance to talk about their lives, and then I have 2 or 3 questions. And if we still have a lot of time, I have a couple bonus questions, and then you all will have time to ask questions. And I think you'll find a spot that you'll want to do that. So we're going to go down the row. Alex, we're going to start with you. Okay, we'll start with... Okay, so here's the first thing. They're just going to give us about 5 minutes of their story on arriving in the United States and how they got to where they are now.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
All right, thank you. This is longer than like Miss America question, so it's 5 minutes, fine. Hey everyone, thanks for coming out. I'm Alex. I moved here from Vietnam at the age of 12. Start from scratch. I remember my first day at school. I got pulled back 2 years, which made me smarter than everyone else in my class. I couldn't speak English at all. I speak 6 different languages, and English is a tough one. So graduated middle school and high school from Clinton, Iowa. Moved to Drake 9 years ago to attend Drake University. Switched major 6 different times. Ending up with marketing at Medicom. I've been with Medicom for 5 years now. Been involved with a lot of nonprofit organizations in Des Moines. So I'm here today, and I were lucky to get honored as one of the Passport to Prosperity honoree last year. So this is pretty exciting, and I look forward to this dialogue. So thanks again. So.
Okay, thank you, Zirka. Well, I guess I will take you back a little further. So some 30 years ago, it was a cold winter morning. A lady was waiting anxiously outside of the hospital, and she's been there for 10 hours. And as soon as the cry of a beautiful baby girl, burst into the air, this old lady turned away and went home. So you might wonder where the story goes. Well, that old lady was my grandma. She was my dad's mother, and then that baby girl cry was me. So, that was a story that my mom had told me growing up. I never knew it. My grandma eventually was won over by my infectious laughter and my cute whatever, cheekbone, whatever, according to my mom. But when my mom told me that story, I was, really shocked. The reason for that was my father was the only son in the family, and my grandma was really disappointed that I do not get to carry on the family name, and this generation of Zhao ended here because I was eventually going to marry out. She was so upset that I was a girl that she would walk away from the hospital. And back then was when China started implementing the one-child policy, which means my mom couldn't have a second child. And so her dream of having a grandson was demolished by that. So after hearing that story, I felt like that pretty much shaped who I am today. And subconsciously in my mind, I always try to prove to my grandmother that even though I'm a girl, I can do everything that boys can. Maybe I can even do better than a boy. You know what? Boys are not such a big deal. Sorry, guys. And in a way, I became, really, really, just trying to put myself out there with boys, and I feel like it's one of the reasons why I'm here today. The rest of my life journey wasn't as interesting as my birth, so it's gonna, kind of go downhill from here. After that, like everyone else in China, I went through the terrible 12 years of education. When I said terrible, it doesn't mean that we didn't learn anything, but it means that it's very much confined, and we were, I stayed in a dormitory with 16 other girls in a room that are probably 30 feet or so. And we have bunk beds, and then every morning we have to go doing our morning exercise at 6 o'clock, and we study all the way till 12 o'clock at night, trying to prepare for the national entrance examination. For those who know a little bit about how Chinese students get to advance to college, it is the most cruel examination that you can ever take. You were given 2 days to 3 days, and then taken 4 or 5 or 6 different subjects, depending on which track you are going to. And that single test is going to determine your life. If you have done really well, you enter to the top tier university, and you get to choose the hot, subject to study, and then there will be a good job for you. If you fail in that exam, you might be going to become a cashier in the supermarket, or you might even end up working in the factory making iPhone for all of us that we play, we spend so many hours a day on. That's just the reality of the life for all the Chinese people there. And obviously, facing me, I wasn't satisfied or happy with the choices that we have. So I paid special attention to study English, and I always wanted to come to the United States because we were all very familiar with the American dream. And somehow I was very lucky that I was given a scholarship. So I went over to Holland first. I always wanted to come to the United States, but it wasn't easy at first. Right after September 11, the route to get visa and scholarship to come to the United States was very, very difficult. So I went to Holland, and then I got a job working for a Dutch bank. And never in my life would I imagine that a company will transfer me to the United States. And how I ended up here was kind of a fun story in itself. I always wanted to come to the United States, right? So whenever I saw my manager, I said, please move me. I only have 2 suitcases, right? I am the easiest person for you to move around to the United States. So eventually, he told me that there's an opportunity in Iowa, in Des Moines. Of course, I have no idea where that is. I can't even pronounce the word. And, he just showed me a piece of paper, and I looked at it. I was like, Des Moines, IA. I didn't know that was Iowa. So I said, where was that? Where is that? My manager said, Chicago, right? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, here's the map. Chicago is here, Des Moines is here. See, they're pretty close. You can probably party in Chicago during the weekend. I was like, yes, sign me up. So that's how I ended up in Iowa. And then it was until I was here, I realized, oh my gosh, it was like 6 hour drive. Anyway, after I moved here, I really fell in love with people here. I told people I'm just so lucky. Everybody welcomed me with an opening arm. And when I wanted to set up a business, everybody in the community is very generous with their time, sit down with me, trying to come up with ideas how my business could take off, and trying to help me make meaningful connection, and even helping me try to win a client. After being in business for 7 years, I feel very, very fortunate and very comfortable. And thank you so much for coming and hear my story.
I just want to say that beginning of that story was just so beautiful, the way that you told it. I was just so engaged. So my name is Kenia Calderon. I was born in Santa Ana, El Salvador. So my first language isn't English. So I grew up knowing Spanish and going to school. Then we faced with the reality that the country was changing. Things were changing. And as an 11-year-old, I could tell that things were no longer safe for my family and I. So one of the things that I vividly remember is that I was 8 and my mom was cooking dinner, and I was watching the news. I've always felt a little bit older for my age, so I really love the news. And then I heard that they were warning people not to open any backpacks in parkings, in parks, because the violence and gang members were trying to send a message to the Salvadorian people that they were going to run things. So they were decapitating people, placing their heads in backpacks and leaving it in public places. So as an 8-year-old, I'm watching this news story and really thinking to myself, why would anyone do that to someone else? Why would anybody do that to another human being? So I believe that was the moment that I became very conscious and aware of the violence that El Salvador was experiencing. And later on, I learned about our very recent civil war, and things just started making sense, that the country was going towards a really bad place. So my parents knew that, and they saw that as a threat to their 3 children. So they decided that we needed to move. We needed to get out because we weren't safe there, and they weren't sure if we were going to live. So our American dream became just survival and being able to live to the age that I am right now, to be able to have the opportunities. So the only way that we could come to the United States was if we crossed the border. So we walked for 3 days in the border, across the border. I was 11, my brother was 9, and my little sister was 6. And during those 3 days, again, as an 11-year-old, I'm thinking, I'm trying to make sense I'm trying to make sense of the situation that I'm in. But at the same time, I was very grateful that my parents had made that decision for us. And I still am, 13 years later. I am very grateful that they made that decision to bring us to the United States. I've always lived here in Iowa. Sometimes I see myself living somewhere else, but other times I would miss the people a lot as well. A lot of doors have opened for me, even with the lack of legal status, because Iowans are welcoming, and they've truly made the state a home for me. I'm also a DACA recipient, so we can talk about that later. But you've probably heard of DACA, especially after the decision that Trump made last week to terminate the program. So my time here in the United States have been always survival, always trying to overcome another obstacle. I just graduated from Drake University in May. So I know there's another bulldog at this table. But again, my life has just been of setting up a goal for myself and my family, overcoming it and facing the the obstacles that I will face in the way. And as a DACA recipient, I will be overcoming another set of obstacles. And it's an honor to be here today with you all to share a little bit about my background and my story, and a story that can be related back to the 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country. Thank you.
Okay, well, amazing stories. Well, mine is not that exciting, but I'll try. I'll start with my mother. She was born in a little town in Turkey. It's called Kastamonu. And when she was 13, she was it was an arranged marriage to a 20 year older than her, and basically she was sold for a cow and $100. And then a couple years later, she had a baby. They moved to Istanbul. But a month later, the baby died. And then a couple years later, when she was 18 years old, she had me. And when I was 5 years old, my father left us, then with another woman. And my mother is 4'9", and she was pregnant also with my brother. And so what she would do is she will go to school, but she couldn't do it because she didn't finish the high school. It was like right after elementary school they got her married, but she couldn't do it because she was pregnant and she had to take care of me. And so she put me in the school, and I will always run away from the school. I will go to school, and she will drop me off, and she will go to work, and I will go like this, and I will run and go where the tourists are. And then I'm 5 years old, of course, running around Istanbul, and I will go to a person, hey, give me something, I'll sell it, and you give me some money, and I'll bring you some money, and we just share it. But yeah, I will get like those plastic bags, and we'll go to a touristic area and just scout there and just watch all the tourists. They will buy little things, and they will hold it, and I will go to them. I will go, no English, nothing. They will go, oh, very good, and they will put it in there and then give me like a quarter or something. So then my mother, of course, comes home and looking for me, and it's 10 o'clock, and Sarkon is nowhere to be found. And with that money, I would go see a movie until 11, 12 o'clock and come home, and she's like, where were you? And so from there on, it just went on. And at work of hers, and she was told by her friends that, hey, listen, he is brilliant, and you need to give him to the orphanage because he's going to die, she's like, I can't give him to the orphanage. And there's a law in Turkey. It says if one of your parent is not available or died or whatever, can take care of you, the law says you are eligible to put your kid into orphanage until 18 years old. And you have to give up everything, all your rights. But she's like, I can't do it. And finally, one day she couldn't find me. And she came to the movie theater, and the security guy is this is like 11:30, last show, and then took me home. She told me, hey, listen, you want to go to a Navy Academy? Of course, when you are 5, 6 years old, Navy Academy, you want to be a pilot. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go to Navy Academy. So on the next day, we go to Navy Academy, but nobody's around. It's summertime, and she says, I'll be back. And I'm like, great, go. And she left. And then I looked, everybody's sleeping in the orphanage. They put you in a summertime. They put you like sleep time from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So it was like around 3 o'clock. And it would then 4 o'clock, and everybody start waking up, and all the kids are running around. I'm like, where is the uniforms? And it turns out to be the orphanage. So they told her not to come for 6, 7 months. So from there on, I was in the orphanage, and after 6 months, she will come see me for an hour or so, and then she will go back. So from 5 until I came to America, I was in the orphanage. But when I was 10 years old, there was a guy in Turkey, it's a conservatory, and the section of the ballet, he came to an orphanage to donate in a Muslim country. Turkey is a 99% Muslim and 1% is sharing. So there are some in a Muslim country, and there are places that you have to give to poor. And so he came to the orphanage to donate clothing or money, whatever it was, I don't remember. But then he saw a whole bunch of boys, testosterone, running around and doing nothing. So he thought, wow, I can take these boys and make them a ballet dancer, because the ballet world needs a male dancer. So he collects 40 people, 40 boys, and from there he takes us to conservatory, and then we audition. You know, they tell us, take off your clothes, everything except underwear. So I'm like, you don't tell an orphan to take off your clothes, just leave you. So anyways, from that 40 people walked out, and we had only 8 left, and they were stretching out, and there's a whole bunch of people sitting like this, going like this. So we all just standing there. Anyways, we started the ballet, 10 years old, and we would go to the orphanage. You know, they would call us names and dancers and gays, and you know, they are coming, and you know, all that stuff. And sometimes they would corner us and you know, hit us, but we just had to keep going because we couldn't say I don't want to do it. So we keep going, and it will take us almost 3.5 hours to go there. We had to walk, take a bus, get off bus, walk to the train, get on the the boat, and it's back and forward. So went on like that, and when around I was 16 years old, there was 2 Russians, wife and husband. They traveled the world and teach ballet. So they end up being in Turkey. They started to teach ballet, and then a year later, you know, this is 1991. The Russia was communist then, so they opened the school with the Kirov Ballet, the Vaganova school, with the famous very school. Their satellite school in Kirov Academy. It's called Kirov Academy in Washington, D.C. And they were ordered to come to America and teach there. And so before they left, they are like, hey, listen, you know, keep taking ballet classes. You know, you have a pretty face and you have a nice body. You are very smart, and we won't forget you. And we are like, okay, whatever. So a year later, I get a FedEx to the orphanage. This little, you know, FedEx envelope, but I never seen a FedEx before, and I'm like, what is this envelope? Huge. And I opened it, and there's papers. I'm like, what's this? And I just crumble it up and throw it in the trash. And one of the older people that will live in the orphanage, they go to college, and you know, they're like, oh, what's this? And they started to read. They knew English. They're like, what are you doing? You got a full scholarship. I'm like, what? Yeah, you got a full scholarship to America. I'm like, are you kidding me? Give it back. So from there on, and I start working, like, you know, go everywhere. And I was 17 years old, and the government, because I was property of the government until I was 18, and they told me that I couldn't go. So I was like, what? And my friend and I, we just start walking, and you know, this Lions Club? You know, I'm sure you guys know this Lions Club. So I went there and knocked on their door. Hey, I have this opportunity. Can you help me? They said, fine. And the next day they had a board meetings. So we went there, and there was a whole bunch of newspapers, and they said, hey boy, hold your paper like this. So they took a picture, and on the next day, it was from one of the major newspapers on the bottom, saying the government is playing with this boy's future, and he has an opportunity to go to America and study, and you know. And the next day, I get a phone call from the Prime Minister's secretary in the orphanage saying, you know, you need to go to police department and get your passport. So I go there. Within 2 days, I get a passport, and then I go to embassy, American embassy, and they this whole thing took like 2-3 weeks. Then I go to American embassy and get in line. And the guy comes, and, you know, you have to get your visa. And he says, well, you know, your orientation day, we were going to get an F1 visa. And they told me that your orientation day was a week ago. I'm like, what? And he goes, well, I can't give you a visa. So I go back. I make somebody call America. Again, I get a FedEx. And then we tell them, the school here saying that, hey, listen, there's the English problem and I don't speak any English whatsoever. And they say, well, don't worry about it, just let them read the second page. So I go back, and after 2-3 days, I get the FedEx, go back, there was the same guy on the booth, and he's like, well, that's great, but how about English? Did you learn English in 2-3 days? I'm like, well, they told me I had to translate, I had to talk to the lady, and they translate. Well, they told me to look at the second page. So he looks at the second page, and he's like, I remember, I didn't know what he said, but now that I'm thinking a long time ago, it was like, you son of a bitch kind of a thing, The reason it was like that, the paper said, the ballet is an international language. He doesn't need to know English to come to America. So that was my little, so I got a visa. Then I go to airport and knock everybody's door. Hey, I have this opportunity. I have no plane ticket. Can you help me? Every one of them said no, no, no. And finally, Pan Am, Pan Am, do you remember Pan Am? I went in there, hey, I have this opportunity. I got to go to America. And he said, well, I was about to get up to leave. He goes, whoa, hold on. And then he goes, well, you have a $12? I'm like, yep, I have a $12. And I'm like, no, I don't have a $12. And he goes, really? I'm like, yep. Then he takes off, gives me a $12. Then he goes, okay, give that $12 back to me. I give it back, and he goes, you have a standby ticket. So then get on the plane, arrive to DC. They pick me up. After all that, they were taking me to school, and it was nighttime, 1991, and in the Dallas airport. And in the bus, I freaked out. I was like, shit. What did I do? And because you don't know anybody, you don't speak the language, anything. So then I told myself in that moment, hey, listen, if you lived in the orphanage, you grew up in the orphanage, think America's a huge orphanage, figure it out. So from there on, 3 years in DC, then went to San Francisco, got a scholarship there, and then from there I got a job in Tulsa, Oklahoma as a dancer professionally. That turned into 8 years, and then met my wife there. Her name is Lori, and they're from here. And then we moved here, bought into the ballet school, and then be part of the Ballet Des Moines. And last 13 years we're in Des Moines and trying to do give back to community as much as we can with what we know. And this is my little story, but there's more, but it just, I don't think it will be enough time for it. So.
I think they've all probably told their story before, but still to sit up here and talk to another room full of people is pretty incredible, and thank you all for sharing that story. So here's the next question I have for you. You have been recognized for your accomplishments and for your contributions to the community as Passport Honorees, that's what it does. Talk to us about that moment or that mentor that kind of was a turning point, and you started contributing back. You've all mentioned help, and somebody said something or somebody did something. Whether it was a $12 or knocking on doors or whatever it was. Tell us about that moment that you started contributing back. Who wants to start? Kenya? Kenya's got her hand up, or the microphone.
So my dad was an attorney in El Salvador, and my mom went to, she was going to be a teacher. And so the first time that I attended college was when I was around 7, because babysitters are a luxury in El Salvador. So I would go and sit in the back and just attend college with my mom. And I thought she was the coolest person. I just wanted to grow up to be like her and have the friends that she had in college. So I became obsessed with the idea of going to college and getting a college degree. And then fast forward my junior year in high school, I had always known that I was undocumented. But this is when I really started seeing how it was affecting me directly. So I really wanted to apply. I wanted to go to college, right? But I couldn't because I didn't have a legal status. And then the president of the high school that I went to was aware of my situation, and he knew how bad I wanted it. So he knew an alum from Dowling as well who had gone to college while she was undocumented. And she, I think, ended up graduating from UNI, I believe probably 6 years before I actually met her. And they introduced me to her, and she was the person that really gave me hope and told me that if she could go to college and get a college degree, then I could too. And that was the first time that I had a role model, because, you know, I grew up seeing Latino professionals and very successful Latinos, but they weren't role models to me because they had a Social Security. And she truly was a role model because she had been in the same situation that I was in at that moment. And she guided me throughout the college process and really was there for me when I would get frustrated about all these doors that were closing to me. And once I finally got to Drake and I started seeing how hard it was for me to get there, I started thinking of her and the support that she gave me. So I told myself I needed to do the same thing for other undocumented students that were facing the same situation. And I needed to be that role model, the same role model that she was for me. And then I started talking more with undocumented students, which is why I was honored last year because of my work with undocumented youth. But it was truly because of her, because she gave me the hope that I needed at that moment. So I needed to continue her work through me and other students.
Well, I guess one of the main mentor that I have has something to do with our international center too. When I first got here, of course, I was nicely surprised by how everybody, why are they so nice? And before I get used to everybody's so nice, and if you talk to any other people that have just recently moved here, they might tell you the same thing too, especially for Chinese people. We're not that nice to each other. So when I first moved here, my little, antenna went up. I was like, why is everybody so nice to me? What do they want from me? And then later I realized, okay, everybody is that nice. They're truly that nice. And I went to my first ever, one of the very first ever event. I walk into it was at Drake, and I walk into the room, and I saw an older gentleman stand there by himself. So I went up, I look at his name tag, it says Bob. So I said, hi Bob, how are you? And then he looked at me and we started having a conversation. And I told him that I just moved here from the UK, blah, blah, blah. He was very intrigued. And then I said, hey, Bob, what do you do? He said, I'm retired. I was not satisfied with that answer. I said, okay, so come on, what did you retire from? And he said, well, different things, but, nothing worth mentioning. And I just literally was having a conversation with him for about 5 minutes until somebody came over and then say, good to see you, Governor. And I was like, what? You were the governor? And then someone else pulled me aside and say, yes, that was our former Governor Ray. And he, everybody know him. Apparently I'm the only one that didn't know him and keep on calling him Bob. And but he, being the true inspiration to all of us, he kept his promise. Because I asked him, I said, hey, Bob, I want to be more connected. Can you help me? He said, yes. I thought, I will not hear back from the governor again, right? He's the governor. 2 days later, he called me and he said, I want you to meet with this gentleman. He has lots of world experiences, blah, blah, blah. And that gentleman was Ambassador Quinn. And I sat down with Ambassador Quinn, and he became one of the main mentor I had as well. And he was so kind and giving me involved with the World Food Prize. And then through that, I met many, many more people. So if I look back, and I would have said Governor Ray is my first impression of Des Moines. For someone from China, where the power distance was so long, even talking to the governor was like a dream that many have. We would never imagine we can talk to the governor, and let alone the governor actually take my word and made phone call and connected me with people. And the story continues. It goes on. And then when Governor Ray, when we bought our house, we were actually sort of neighbors to Governor Ray. We can see their yard from our yard, and we baked some cookies for him. We went over, and he was so excited. He said, "Just leave the cookies." But he was very happy to see us, and well, and whenever we had passport event, I always wanted to see him. Until recently, we don't get to see him as often. But he's one of my true mentor and someone who really taught me to give back. And one other thing about Chinese culture was we're a low trust society, and people tend to only stay close to their really, close circle, little friends, and people don't go out and about to help a stranger. It's not in the Chinese people's culture. But when I got here, I realized, this is what community is all about. And I started volunteering, I started serving on board, I'm giving back, and I'm so happy that I have learned that from so many inspirations.
You want to go or you want me to go? Are you thinking what to say? All right, I love it. Well, for me, well, I grew up in the orphanage, and I saw many terrible, terrible things. And then I came to America. The moment I land in America, every door opened for me, and the doors that I wanted to open. And in the way, until this moment, everybody helped me in their own way, sometimes financial, sometimes their help. So I believe in America, and America is amazing. Yes, I'm Turkish. I will never forget where I come from, of course. I arrived here 17 years old. I'm 43 now, and I always tell myself, I'm Turkish, but I was made in America. So I'm a citizen now also, but in the way, there's a lot of people, the American life, in Turkey, the same thing, people help each other, of course, hospitality is amazing, but something with Americans, and it's weird, it's amazing that even though they don't talk to each other all the time, they care, and let's say, if I come to you and I'll try to pick, and you start talking, if I fall, and hey, are you okay? You need help. So I feel like I have to help everybody also, whoever is in need. But particular story that 15, 16 years ago, my father-in-law, and he told me a little story of he always tells me, hey, go with the flow, and you need to volunteer. If it's now that you're an American and you like America, and this is amazing, but it is very, very, very important to volunteer, donate your time, help. So for me, it's natural, and I try my best to help everybody in any way I can. And so it's just normal way of living in America. That's how fortunate we are. And sometimes it's amazing country, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud of that the system, it works. And even though weird things happening or whatever it's happening, but it has to be like that. It has to be like that. It's not like I'd rather be here than my own country, where there's no freedom that what we have. We have everybody in here have their own point of view, let's say in the politics, but at the end when something happens, everything stops and becomes one person. So it's natural. I mean, I don't know how to answer your question, because it's just natural thing to help and volunteer. So that's my little 2 cents. You ready? Yes. You sure? How about you do it like this?
I'll use this one. This is lucky, right?
Yeah, that's a good energy there.
All right. Save the best for last, I guess. lightly say, everyone is so nice. There's a term that I'm sure everyone familiar with is Iowa nice. I was very lucky and fortunate to kind of surrounded by, great people who love and care about me. I remember when we first moved to Clinton, Iowa, I'm the only one graduate from my class that are Asian American, and the rest are, white and African American. And I was like, oh my God, But my classmates they're loving, caring. I was elected to class president every year, and I consider myself. I have a lot of mentor along the way. Example, I know Norbert from the audience. I serve with Norbert on the library board. I learned a lot from him. He's a number guy. As a good example, every time when we were attending a library board foundation meeting, when it's talk to number, he's very particular, specific, asking questions. So that's how I kind of learn from him. Along the way is there's a term that as a young professional who work, live, and plays in Des Moines, I have the opportunity to kind of reach out to community leaders, whether a CEO of the partnership or any company, they're willing to go get coffee with you. And that's just kind of one of the things that really surprised me compared to if you live in Chicago or Kansas City or Minneapolis. You don't have that opportunity where a CEO from whether any big company willing to meet with you outside. And then one of my biggest thing is my mom is Chinese, so she always taught us, me and my brother, is if someone give you something, you have to somehow pay for it in return. So I am since college, I got my full-time job. I am pretty much involved in 6 different organization, nonprofit board, serving as on the board of director, somehow to kind of give back and pay forward. Because one of my goals is to make a difference. I have the ability to have the American dream, to kind of work and live and play in Des Moines, and I want to pay forward. I want to make sure that this city here, 10 years or 5 years or tomorrow will be more diverse, and hopefully this will grow into a better state for everyone. Welcoming whether refugee or immigrant. This is the land. So yeah. My drop.
All right, thank you. Any questions? We have time for a few. Otherwise, I'll start my bonus round.
I wanted to follow up with Kenya about the DACA Act and how that will affect you personally, and if it will affect any of the rest of the 3 of you.
Yes, so just very quickly, background story. DACA was an executive order, so it wasn't a law that President Obama passed in 2012. But it did give DACA recipients the ability to have a Social Security, obtain a driver's license. It didn't give us access to any federal help. So when I went to college, I had to pay out of my own pocket, right, to get an education. So how will it affect me? So right now, I work for an organization within my field of study. So my work permit expires October 2018. So when the program's terminated, if Congress doesn't pass anything, in October 2018, I will be out of status, which means that I will no longer be able to work where I work right now. I will no longer have a driver's license. So it's going to affect me in a great deal, and especially, I hope it doesn't sound too dark, but it is the reality that 800,000 DACA recipients are facing right now, that the goal of Homeland Security is to deport these DACA recipients. When the announcement was made last Tuesday, a message went out to Capitol Hill from the Department of Homeland Security that they are advising DACA recipients to use the time while they wait for their work permits to expire to pack their bags and make travel arrangements. So it's going to affect me a great deal in the sense that I may be and a year from now, I may be in deportation proceedings. But I also, I acknowledge that I have certain privileges because I do have a college degree and a college degree from the United States. So if I am sent back home, I hope to figure it out. But my heart and mind right now is focused on the DACA recipients who are parents, who have children, who use this work permit to be able to feed their families. I'm more worried about those individuals right now because a lot is at stake. And I'm hoping that Congress does find a solution for this issue. I'm hoping that they find something that they can pass something that's exclusive and that doesn't just benefit college graduates, because I don't think that a college degree should be the determining factor whether you should stay in this country or not. But I'm hopeful, but it's hard to be hopeful sometimes because the reality is different and the reality is a dark one. So I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions?
It doesn't affect.
Well, it doesn't affect me, but I have a little word to say about it. It will affect me in a different way because just because I became a citizen doesn't mean, it doesn't. The reason is I was very lucky and, got the visas and everything, but I'm looking back, my situation, I had an opportunity, and if to have that opportunity, no matter what, I will come to this country. Now, it's not 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people. That's 800,000 people who lives here and who makes your lives and my life easier somehow, and they want to contribute. And it's not matter of anybody, it's matter of us as a society to decide what we want to do with it, because they are here and I always say to my students, they are like 17 years old, 16 years old. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm more American than you are. And they're like, no, you are not. You did not born here. I'm like, well, I've been here more than you have. And I do everything. I'm 43 years old. I've been here 27 years and I'm more American than you are. And they're like, well, I guess you're right. So it's as a society what we have to decide what we want to do with those like people like her, because she's not doing anything wrong. Look, she's here and she's contributing. And you know what, if there's 800,000 people and if there's 500 of them in DACA but bad person in a way, you know what, I will take that and to help, so we all have to talk about it and see what you want to decide. Like she said, the Congress, they have to decide because it's not going to end. It's America, it's here forever. 800,000 people are here. Guess what? There are people coming in every day, and there's another 800,000 people will be here for the next presidents to come. So it's always there's they can't have any solution, but they have to think what we do now and for future people. It's not the end of it. That's what I think.
It won't affect me, but for me, I believe that everyone need to come together to support the program, even though there's maybe some everybody is different in their own opinions and stuff, but at the same time this is a great program. It's allow a lot of people to have the American dream, like all of us, and I think that the community support will be very beneficial. So
Lee, were you going to say something earlier?
I think the audience has said it all.
Okay, you've all said it. All right, now I can ask, are there any other questions?
So with the DACA, is there anything that we can do to help? Like, do we call our congressman or woman, or what is there that we can do?
Call your congressman, I guess, and every day, because I have a friend, every day, 5 to 10 times they are calling, not from just here. I know a lot of people in the country from every state because of ballet, and everybody's keep telling me, I volunteer, I call 10 times a day, and they know me now. And then the other guy goes, I email every day, 20 of them. So I guess that's all you can do. I mean, you can't go to Congress and say, put their gun on their head and pass. I mean, we just have to, we just have to like do call. If you agree that DACA, should stay. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're in support of the program or in support of Congress passing something better, that's one way to help. My mind also goes to, there's people that do not support this program, right? And I believe that those individuals that don't support the program come from the place that they're not aware of who these recipients are, right? And it comes from a place maybe of ignorance because they've never interacted or they've interacted. All of us have interacted with an undocumented immigrant, whether we knew it or not. But I think if you hear a negative comment about this community, I think making it a point to say something to counteract that rhetoric is important, especially as white Americans. You will most likely interact with individuals that may not support those programs. So it's making it your responsibility to engage in those type of dialogues to say, hey, well, I met someone else and they're in this situation, and making sure that you're advocating for us in your own communities is very important, and in calling Congress as well. But just staying up to date and advocating for us within your own families. I think that's very important, having these conversations and doing the research and finding more about what does this mean and how will it truly affect our community? Because my story is just one among 800,000, right? Everyone's going to have different stories and different perspectives. So thank you for the question.
One quick final question. Thank you all. Just moving stories to listen to you all. Jenny?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure you made a pitch for passport.
That's coming. So all of these individuals have been recipients of the Passport to Prosperity honor. And that's our big event that we do every year. And each year we honor 3 to 5 to 4. So we have 14. Who's 14? Lee, are you 14? 15? Yes? You are. And in 16, right? So we have some representatives from the last 3 years. On October 14th, it's a Saturday night, we will honor 3 more immigrants and refugees from our community. Sadagat Alieva from Azerbaijan, Nancy Maratzi from Kenya, and Sanjita Pradhan, who's from Nepal. And these 3 individuals, I spoke with them all last Friday, spent an hour with them. And what struck me, like it does here, that there is this underlying sense of bravery. And as I heard Tom Hanks talk about it this morning, bravery is not so much going out and just blasting your way through. It's really tamping down the terror and going forward and doing your best and contributing. And that's what bravery is. And I think among all these people and among those that we'll honor in October, you'll hear those same kinds of stories. So I hope you'll all join us. If you want to buy a ticket, it's $50, and Katie's around here somewhere, and she can tell you how to do that, and there's information out here on the table. We want to thank Meredith very much for allowing us to bring a great panel of people in and including us in your inclusion program. And we'll be back November 15th. Is that right? Did I get the right date? 14th. November 14th. And it will be a another great program. So anything else? Any final words, Jenny, Katie? Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for spending some